Hello, everyone. Today we have a new guest with us, Dr. Pat Boulogne, and she is part of our series of the whole entire year where we've done different interviews to see who in the world is doing mental health help and all the different ways that you can get help and people you can seek out to find out more information about yourself and your mindset and anxiety and all the things. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and talk about a book that she has, and I'll just ask questions as we go along, and you can learn a lot about Dr. Pat.
Well, thank you very much. I don't always get to introduce myself, but I'm really excited because I finally get to say what I'm going to say. I am, I go back from being a kid, and playing doctor. And I've always played doctor. And I've always been very proud of my statistic that no one who ever has been underneath my care has ever died.
Mm.
And so they have after they left my office, but not after when, I had my office. Right now, I do virtual work and I help companies, and I act as a consultant and also as a coach and a source who is like someone who's got your back, so that sometimes the information that we have, we don't know how to assimilate it. So what I do, and my why, is to synthesize that information down so that it makes sense. So it's no longer convoluted, it's no longer stressful, and you don't feel like I can't open that book yet. And it's just like, well, how long have you had the book? 2 weeks. I still can't look at it. And it's just like, so it takes that stress off. So I organize it so that we can make it simple, and we can make it so that it's understandable and you can move forward in a safer, quicker, simpler solution way.
Mm.
And so that piece of it, I've had experience, speaking on stage. I've worked with patients. I've been doing this for over 38 years. And I love seeing people do good, have
Mm.
fun, and thrive physically, mentally, spiritually, socially, and financially. When you get the financial part and we work on that, that's when you're making really great decisions, so that
Mhm.
you can stay healthy, be healthy, have the habits and lifestyle that you really deserve and that you really want.
I love that. And habits, no matter what age we are, they are incorporated in our life in kind of the same way. And I always say that about emotional regulation. If you're a toddler all the way up to year 100, you're going to be regulating your emotions kind of in the same way. You just have to be taught it or told about it in a different way. So, do you ever work with young people like teens or young adults, or are a lot of your people older?
Not so much anymore on this level,
Mhm.
like where I'm doing virtual work and that type of thing. But when I had my office, I had autistic kids, I had, babies, I had adults who were babies.
Yes, I
and,
know some of
um,
those.
and I worked with people who had depression, who were anxious, and help them, reassess what health is for them
Mhm.
and how they can step into better health looking at what habits are the ones that they can change that make sense. Because
Mhm.
sometimes people say, like, I want to be, it's just like, I want to go to Europe. Well, if I don't have the money ever to get to Europe, it's a great aspiration. And you might be inspired to go and it's like save your money up or whatever, but unless you take action, you're not going to be able to do that. And
Mhm.
so when people have, like things that stigmatisms, so to speak, that hold you back, then it's hard to get into what we talked about just before we got on Einstein's time, and being in your groove, turned on, your vortex, whatever you want to call it, so that you can, like have the universe work for you,
Mhm.
and be your friend as opposed to being scared to take your next step.
Mhm. So how do you teach how to change your mindset and how to do that maybe in a way that doesn't seem overwhelming or scary or too hard?
Well, I do. There is there is a technique that I never thought I could do it online, but I've been very successful at doing it online, and I've also done it in person. And what I look at is like when somebody's having, behavior issues, whatever it is, whether it's good or bad, because you could have good, annoying behaviors
Mhm.
also,
Mhm.
and they don't always necessarily have a negative connotation. But you have to go like, well, where did I get that from? Like, why does that happen? Why do I do that? Every time I get to the certain point, I sabotage myself. I lose my job. I'm always back at day one, and I'm thinking like, I can't do this anymore. This is not cool. Universe, you got to do something else. And
Mhm.
so what I do is I work with somebody and we go back to where that childhood trauma is,
Mm.
whether it's a trauma or just because it could be a trauma, a time, a space, an event, people that were around you, the situation that you were in, and that influenced you. You could have heard when you were 4 years old, your parents arguing about money and, your parents saying like, we're never going to be ahead. So every time you start to get ahead, you know, you lose it.
Mhm.
And, it's just thinking, why is that? So you can go back in and take that imprint of what you have for your mindset, and you can totally change that so that
Mhm.
it isn't like it like disappears, but when it triggers, your mammalian brain no longer says, well, it's like, oh, that's a bad experience. You're going, oh, I know what that is,
Mhm.
and I'm moving over here. And you make
Mhm.
it into a positive experience. So you're much more accustomed to it. Even when
Mhm.
the primitive brain says, oh no, that's not the truth, you can kick that primitive brain off your shoulder and use your conscious brain. And that's why you do the affirmations, like, and you say them at a very specific time in the morning and at night before you go to bed. And you phrase them in a very particular way because the conscious brain is telling the mammalian brain it's got to do better, and
Mhm.
it's saying, like, I am healthy, I am vital, I am active, I'm a successful human being. So if you
Mhm.
say that in your conscious brain with intention and with meaning it, it's just like when you tell your kid whose hand is about to touch a hot stove, go, honey, don't touch the stove. You're going to get burned. I will put money on it. They'll still touch the stove because there's no urgency to get their hand
Yeah.
off of it,
Mhm.
And so when you talk to yourself like that, you're talking to yourself with that urgency, like, I need it now,
Mhm.
and you say it to yourself so that you can blend it into the mammalian brain because the mammalian brain is very cool. It is the holy grail of marketing. That's where they take you from your pain and they show you the transformation you're going to have for your future.
Mm.
And that's a huge thing. It's all your emotions ever stored. Like you
Mhm.
wonder, like, where did they ever learn that? That's in your mammalian brain. The
Mhm.
one that the primitive brain is, the saber-toothed tiger, the guy who pulls out directly in front of your car and you miss it by 2 inches. That you want your primitive brain to be working for that. That's
Mhm.
your survival instinct. Your conscious brain is like what you do with it during the daytime, you know,
Right.
and you have that big influence. So when you have those pieces of the puzzle and you go to do the technique that I do, you look at each one of those and where that information is coming from and where the faulty information is, and you correct that faulty information.
Mm.
And then you have a better, more equated response to that, that's going to less likely. You also have to take a look at food. Food, the
Mm.
gut brain connection is so huge. People who, when things trigger them off, we all have our like that comfort food that we like. So,
Mhm.
when you have that comfort food, you might say, like, oh, don't ever really feel good after that. And then
Mhm.
I'm tired or I'm lethargic and I have to take an extra nap. It's not like it's a rainy day or a snowy day. That's different. But
Mhm.
when you have one of those days like that, then you have to be able to equate it and move it along its pathway so that you know what it is. And you're going, I don't have time for you today. I've got to be
Yeah.
over here and do all this other stuff, and then put it in order.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I teach my clients too something where, when they have thoughts that are faulty and we're trying to change them, and I tell them those thoughts are going to come back. Like you don't ever get rid of them where you're like, "Oh, I never think about that anymore." Especially with anxious thoughts. But when they have them, I talk to them about either saying, "Oh, that was old me saying that, but now new me is saying this other thing," and we just change it to the thing we want it to be. Or sometimes we even put age on it because they're still young enough. They haven't had that thought as long. So they'll say, "Oh, well, 13-year-old me thought that, but now 14-year-old me thinks this new thing." And
Mm-hmm.
so that's how we kind of separate, the old and the new and changing the thoughts. So it's very
You could
similar.
also do something, very physical. You could take that thought of the 13-year-old me, go out with a shovel in the backyard, dig a hole, and throw the 13-year-old thought in paper-wise into the dirt and cover it up. And
Ooh,
then
I
they
love
have
that.
the brand new one on the 4x6 card, not the 3x5 where you graduated to the bigger one, 4x6 card, and then you're using that kind of like that affirmation,
Yeah,
because
and I like the
even,
physical part
yeah,
to that.
yeah.
Mhm.
that's something that I think is like it's a physical thing to do because people learn either by, their visual, by how they feel or what they hear. And
Mhm,
so if you can combine those things to change a habit, or change a faulty information. And the other thing that's so powerful, words and thoughts are so powerful. You can just tell it to cancel, stop,
mhm, mhm.
and turn in a totally different way.
Yeah. And I think that's so fun when I notice my clients as young people who don't feel like they have a lot of power or agency in their life to realize that they really do have a lot more power and agency than they thought they did just by
Mhm.
the way they're thinking and telling their thoughts to be a certain way. So what
Well,
are
it's all
some
like
things
we all agree that the sky's blue,
Yeah.
but depending upon where you're at in the world, there's different colors of blue,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
So,
And then there's colorblind people who don't see it the same way.
well, that's true. I have a friend of mine that always said to me, or I had a green shirt on, and he said, like, how come you always wear gray?
Yeah.
It just, I
Yes.
think it was the color that when he looked at that color, that's what it looked like to him.
Yeah. My
Yeah,
husband is colorblind, so we have lots of conversations about what color is this?
back to
So
earth.
you Yes, exactly. So you have some ideas of like things that people could do today that would help their physical health and in turn would help their mental health as well. So what are some of those things that people could do today that could help them feel better?
Well, one thing that people, when I had my office and I saw people consecutively on that level, the biggest reason why people had issues is because they were dehydrated.
Mm,
And so I'm always telling you, you got to hydrate. You need water to digest your foods. You need it for exercise to rehydrate your body. You need it to sleep. You also need it to sleep because your brain detoxifies during that time. So you need hydration in order to do that. You also need it to think better. So that's the positive mental aspect of health. And then you also need it for, structure and, so that when you're doing everyday life, because when you perspire, you're always getting rid of water out of your system. And so a
mhm,
lot of people don't like the taste of water. So I always tell them drink it with, I don't have this. I have my beet shake that I have every morning. But, I drink water a lot of times out of a straw because what happens is when you drink it from a cup or from a glass, it hits your nose and psychologically it tells your brain that you're drowning. And so when
oh
you
my
do
gosh.
that, then it's just like you start swallowing air. And a lot of people don't, have a hard time liking water because they don't like the
Mhm,
taste of it in their stomach. They go, water makes my stomach upset. And so, but it really isn't that. But if you drink it from a straw or in a prescribed container, because you should be having 50% of your body weight in ounces, you
mhm,
know, for
mm,
water a day. And someone's going like, well, that's a lot of water. If you do it throughout the day and you start the day off, I read an article one time about how many things that are, dissuaded because you had water first thing in the morning, 16 ounces, and what organ systems love it the best. Like your heart loves that hydration first thing in the morning. So it's important to have that, and it's also important to have, that gut brain connection to work. So how you combine your foods is important. Picking foods that are not highly processed,
mm,
so that's like staying away from, Burger King, Arby's, McDonald's, and Jack in the Box or whatever. I was
mhm,
driving a year ago to New Orleans and I got off at this exit and I was starving and
mhm,
I didn't bring anything with me. And I said, there's got to be something around here. And I'm looking ahead, and there was that McDonald's, there was that Arby's, there was that Chick-fil-A,
mhm.
place, Taco Bell. And I'm looking around like from 12 o'clock, going around, and over my left shoulder, like over at 7 o'clock, was a Trader Joe's.
Oh,
And I just went, wow, they should have those along where the gas station's at, along the highway.
mm,
And I said, so I drove over there, and got chicken salad, got an apple, got things that, were much more nutritious
mhm,
for me. I did a talk one time on my book that we talked about why, like,
mhm,
the why you are sick, fat, and tired, and to 17-year-olds. And like almost all of them, 90% of the people who were in that webinar that day bought the book. And
mm,
they ask me better questions sometimes than adults have asked
yeah,
me, which I think is funny. And this woman just said, like, I'm here at school. I don't have time to make my lunch before I come here, and I said, where can I eat? And I says, there are Sweet Peak. They're always around college campuses. And she goes, there is. And I said, you can eat there.
Mm. Oh
And,
my goodness.
or you can go to Cava Cava, or Cava, or whatever that place is called,
Mhm.
and there's other places that you can go and you can make healthy choices, so that you're having vegetables and lean meat, for that meal because it
Mm.
makes you think better. You're not exhausted after you eat. Anytime you eat and you're exhausted, then something that you ate is not for you. It's, your body's reacting to it. And how it does it want to go to sleep and sleep it off.
Well, I would think I know a lot of people want to make lifestyle changes like drinking more water or eating better, but then it just seems so hard and overwhelming. But I think you have some lifestyle things that, or some tricks or secrets to making some of these changes that maybe take away some of that hard
Well,
part.
you start small, you do it with the rule of one,
Mm.
so it's like if you want to have a glass of water, you want to start drinking water, start drinking 1 16-ounce bottle of water with a straw in it,
Mhm.
and then saying, well, how much do I weigh? It's also water's a great weight regulator also. Other things to do is just like, if you're eating any artificial sugars, don't because they'll make you gain weight. And, or they'll definitely prevent you from losing it. And other things that you can do is like, when you're going to sleep, set the stage for it, get a dark room, wear blinders if you have to, have it around 68, 70 degrees is a good temperature for sleeping, especially in the winter. Um, and then you can have, so just make sure you have enough covers on, but not too heavy and not too like much so that you keep on waking up because you're too hot. And then give yourself permission to go to sleep. And
Mhm.
and if you have something on your mind, because I always think about sleep is so important. If you have something on your mind, you have to ask yourself while you're laying there thinking about, should I try on every pair of shoes in my closet? Or, I wonder if those black pants still fit me,
Mm.
kind of thing too. Going, well, is there anything, what's bothering me, number one?
Mhm.
And, and then when you identify that, then you say, well, is there something I can do about that right now?
Mm.
And if there's something that you can do about it right now, get up and do it.
Mhm.
And then if you have, if there's nothing you can do about it, you can get up and dictate in your telephone, you know, or you can write down keywords because that issue is not going to go away in eight
Mhm.
hours or
Mhm.
now probably six,
Mhm.
for
Right.
some people or
Mm.
four. It's not going to go away. It's going to be there. And you can address that the next day, but then you can address it with a more fresh, being more fresh and revived and ready to hit the ground running. So,
Mhm.
and then when you wake up, if you can say something positive to yourself, I am like that. I am healthy. I am active. That's where those affirmations come in. Those are really good things to do no matter what age you are. You know, and and then also, when somebody says something to you that kind of like, puts a knife into your energy, you can just push their energy right back at them and go, thanks for sharing it with me. And then you walk on. And, so that, because sometimes, we get zapped. There's nothing we can do about it, but you
Right.
can go take a shower. All
Mhm.
those electrons, like, you want that, like those molecules around you to pick
Mhm.
up. And a lot of those, the negative ions around that are what come out of your shower.
Okay.
So that's a simple thing that you can do. Just like go get wet, dry off. It's like going and dipping in a pool. That's why everyone likes
Mhm.
going to the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And that
That's
type of thing. So those are just some of the things that that you specifically can do and not feel overwhelmed about it.
Mhm.
And if you make a mistake, like when you're eating, just like, oh my God, I can't believe I just ate that. I felt horrible. Well, now you know not what to eat,
Mhm.
and you can commit to eating better. If you just like cut out rice, cut out bread, cut out
Mhm.
anything that's white, and just have, those a bunch of vegetables, colorful vegetables in a bowl with a lean piece of meat for your meal,
Mhm.
and then, somebody offers you something because a lot of people are addicted to corn, sugar, because a
Mhm.
carbohydrate is a carbohydrate is a carbohydrate. And all corn in the United States, unless it's actually organic, has it's GMO and also it's sprayed with glycophosphates, which is like Roundup. Who wants to eat something that could possibly, more than likely, down the road after years of consuming it, cause cancer? It's just like,
Right.
it's just like, who does that? I mean, just,
Mhm.
so there's things that you can start to do just in your environment. If you look at something and you read a label and you don't understand what a word is, I don't care. What I care is that you know what the side effects of that word are.
Oh,
And
mhm.
and so that's, and then you can look, you can start, create a list so that you become aware of certain things that are in your foods as inert ingredients, or, are in cleaning products,
Mhm.
or are in your gardening products,
Yeah.
that are potentially are making you, like, sick. And a lot of people have brain fog from that. And
Mhm.
they don't think well, they don't feel well after they had, have that type of exposure.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, and I've been hearing a lot more about all of that, which is great that we have more information about it. Well, tell me what you are offering my audience for today. I'm gonna put some stuff in the show notes about your book, but tell my audience what it is that they would get extra.
Well, what they would get extra is they would get me. It's just like, I always think that we're all like Ferraris. What we want to do is we want to get back to driving a Ferrari, and you want to be able to put in premium gasoline and afford it. So you have to be healthy in order to do that.
Mhm.
So, what I offer is, in my book, there is an opportunity, there is a code that you can make time with me on my calendar at no charge, no hype. No one's going to try to sell you anything. It's just giving you the information so that you can make better decisions. But what I do is I offer you an additional 15 minutes of my time so that we can map out. And so if questions come up, we can get them answered. We can go research it out then so you can get the answer that you need so you can make better decisions moving forward.
Mm, I love
And
that.
that way, because my big goal is to see millions and zillions of people do good, have fun, and thrive.
Mhm. I have that same goal. I want so many young people to just feel good and enjoy their lives and
Mhm.
create these amazing lives that they're just dreaming about, but I want them to actually do it, and I want their parents to be able to help them do that too, so that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, I am so glad you joined us today, and it just gives us more information about all the people out there that are doing wonderful things for not just teens, but adults as well,
Mhm.
and that we can all take advantage of that information, so thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I love being here, and if you ever need I can be back in a flash because there's so many pieces of the puzzle that make up alternative medicine,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of things that, little things that you don't even think of sometimes that, I'll think of 5 things after we get off and go, oh yeah, I could have said that, because that would have been really helpful too. There's just so many things that you do, but start small, work big.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye bye.